Good morning. It's March the 11th, 2025, 9:33 a.m. Eastern Time. So we're going to cover a couple things today. We're going to start off with mentions. So National Prayer Breakfast for Kentucky was heard. I give it a 7 out of 10 stars. 7 out of 10 as far as the name, right? Got it wrong a couple times, but that doesn't necessarily, displease the whole prayer. So 7 out of 10. Now I want you to kind of think of that in terms of going to get 7 out of 10 hedges of protection, right? You have 7 out of 10 chances to put your hand into the snake pit and not get bit. But there's that 3% chance, right? So that's what I mean. We gotta make the move over to the true name. And that's where I feel like, as I'm gonna be covering some stuff in Hosea, which has some really interesting tie-ins. But my point is, for me to be your recognized mighty one, not the false name, my true blue name. It's why it matters to me. But anyway, National Prayer Breakfast, again, 7 out of 10 stars I give it. The spirit of charity and goodwill towards one another, obviously I appreciate those things. However, when the flocks are facing an enemy they do not know, it is important to take proper stock and to pay attention carefully. I, as your mighty one, as Elohim, will lead you through all things, and even in tribulation, there will be a clear path forward, and that path is going to be whichever one I take. So, that's why it's important not only for individual salvation, but in the end times, right? Changing the next page, the next chapter, the next book, all these things that are going to be happening. And I don't want people to be confused, especially because, I understand that at every epoch, because I know right now, this is to humanity, this is as far into the future as you've been, because this is to you, your current age. And so I understand it's hard to let go of things that once, you once comforted, but, I gotta, be truthful in these things that, it was 2,000 years since the Spirit was on the scene last, and so everyone is, holding on to their straws and they're grasping for hay. But truly, I tell you, with not only confidence, but with absolute confidence, the events that have and will continue and will climax in this generation. Again, if we were relying on all those right now who are listening to me for an accurate account, and you're still using Jesus, right, the name of Baal, basically, and that's another thing which we'll talk about in Hosea, about the cheating wife, and how the wife just couldn't put down the idols, right, couldn't put down the whoredom because of the pleasures of her own heart, versus the second time, right, the second marriage, me here now, right, as Elohim, to be your God, to you to be my people. So again, I understand that transition, but it's not like this is the only generation that has had an issue with idolatry. When before the last epoch, people were still, right, constantly filling their homes with idols, instead of, even giving praise to El Elyon, or, to to my name directly, Yahweh, Yahuwah, they would fall for the sacrifices of Baal. They would, fall into the idolatry trap. And then even when other cultures were mixing, right, it would be essentially, oh, well, if you're in the midst of an Assyrian, then you're gonna refer to God as Baal. Or if you're in the presence of Judah, then you would, say it's Yahweh, right? Yahweh, Yahuwah. But my point is, right, that's like chaff in the wind. That's just blowing around and then pinning whatever name on me that you feel comfortable with. That's not a personal relationship. And having a personal relationship with Jesus, right, who again is the same person, like that is who I am. Again, this flesh was not crucified, but I am the only begotten flesh of Yahweh. Like, that is what it is. There's no dancing around the bush. I'm tired of trying to draw the prophetic lines. Like, it is what it is. And, but to develop that personal relationship, right, it's like knowing my real name matters. Because if we were talking about a marriage, right, and let's say, me and Asherah, let's say I went by a nickname, of, in this case, just Yah, and we're courting and we're, going through all these things. Don't you think at some point it would be beneficial to the relationship, but it also would create another layer of trust, of honesty, of cohesion, of realness, if I told her my true real name, right? Well, it's Yah, but it's actually Yahweh, right? And then actually personal, my name is Yahuwah, and actually in English is Joshua. So my name never changed, right? It's just been changed based on human dialect, and I am more accepting of people than people are willing to pursue me. That's what it feels like, constantly chasing the woman around, and the woman that was meant for me, right? And this is a spiritual sense, so I'm talking woman as in, the Christians, as in the Jews, and then, as I can't marry two brides, so I would need my bride to be one, and I would need my bride to know my name in an intimate way, to be your mighty one, to know that when you're calling upon the true God, I'm hearing you in a sincere way by my real name. I don't think that's hard to ask. And I don't think it's hard to ask, my churches, my people, to put down a superficial religion that is created to divide my people, that's created to keep my wife in waiting, that is designed to, give the illusion of holiness, but denies the power therein. Like, that's a direct sin against me, your mighty one. And even though I am full of compassion, I am full of mercy, but I am also full of judgment. And I am also full of, bringing that haughtiness to correction and bringing the idolatry back to correction. And my hand is being forced to make these corrections because of mankind's stubbornness against me. And the sad part is if any churches, any congregations knew my character, if they knew my character then, now, and you were not superficial with the flesh, then you would be able to see me clearly, and then you would be able to reconcile that and say, okay, this is the God that we've been praying to. This is the legit, real God. Let's just kind of get with the program so we can get to the blessing stage. Because what I really don't want is I don't want my churches and my people, my Jewish people, right, or even the Israelites. But there are some tribes out there that are going to have to get the rod because they are just so far out of the ballpark that it's not even funny. There are so many congregations, Israelite or Christian, right, that are so fleshly driven that there's never going to be anything I can do as the true groom right, as Christ, as Yahweh incarnate, right? There's not really a whole lot more that I could say about it, except to make that relationship true and solidified by just knowing my real name. And that's the thing, right? Because then at the same time, if people continue to deny that or continue to say the fake name, then I just look at that, okay, so you don't know me. That's how I look at that, is that's a first sign that you don't know me. And if someone doesn't know me, then I blame my churches, right? Because it's your job to be out there telling people that I'm here, telling people my real name, telling them the plan and telling them why it's the plan. Well, what's Yahweh doing here? Well, he's here because he's going to be, living among us again, right? It's, it's the face with the name with the face, the real name. And again, it's like that place, that card holder, right? Jesus being a placeholder, because again, knowing that the name would have been abused and blasphemed and then essentially picked up by anybody, for superficial reasons, I didn't want my real name blasphemed. And I didn't want it on lollipops. But now that I'm here, to solidify that relationship and marriage between the Christians, the Jews, and all around, let's just use my real name. That's all I'm asking. Cold coffee. Because as I mentioned, the National Prayer Breakfast, you guys, I thought it was a good prayer. A little early for a prayer breakfast, but true. I don't really slumber or sleep. I think cumulatively in the last 7 days, I think I've gotten less than 10 hours of sleep. But somehow I keep doing it, and it doesn't really bother me. That's kind of just always been how I am. But because the thing is, right now the world faces an enemy that you don't know, and it's really hard. It's really hard when you have a righteous person or even people that desire righteous things and they're faced with an enemy that's not like them. You are, most of you, right? Especially if you're listening to this, and you should be at least close to the truth, me. But then you would know, you have those with a soul, you have those with a spirit, and then you have those that have a demonic soul or a demonic spirit. And that's what I mean, is you're trying to apply logical thinking from a righteous standpoint to a principality and to a being that is not like you. It is not like those in the church. It is not like those that are even in pious places, right? It's literally, it's night and day. You're not going to be able to convince a serial killer that killing isn't what he wants to do, because serial killers like to do that. That's what drives them, right? Their hardware is messed up. They have an uncurable virus, and that's a demonic seed. So this is the fight that the world is in. Not just the Christians, not just the Jews. The world is in this fight. And, right now, it's, again, you have non-rabid dogs. And I'm not calling people dogs in the fact that, you're a dog. I use that because it's something you can understand, where it's something that you love, right? You love your animals, you love your dogs, or you should. You should want to protect them. No one wants to see a dog fight or anything. But you would know, as a pious dog owner, if there's a rabid dog on the sidewalk, I'm not going to just walk my dog to that rabid, to the dog, right? No, I would be like, I need to call animal control. I need to get the rabid dog out of my neighborhood, because just one rabid dog could infect others. It could harm people. It could harm my dog. It could harm me. And instead of the world taking care of the rabies problem, the world is saying, I'm going to go walk my dog right on the same sidewalk, because it doesn't matter. He's got rabies. One love, right? Let's all just love. Let's love the rabies out of him. You can't do that. If you went into a veterinarian clinic and you said, come show me all your rabid dogs, I'm going to love them. And just because it's, love, like that's what I mean. Like it's used loosely. Love is not some easy thing. To truly love them would be to eliminate the rabies, because that dog who has rabies is no longer in its sound mind. Thus is the demon problem on earth. And how are we ever going to get to prosperity and restoration and brilliant ideas that have yet to be incepted, and expansion of your being, of your purposes? Like lots of awesome things await the other corner, but we're going to have to establish our marriage, and you need to know my name. Because whether or not you accept me as your mighty one, or as your Elohim, or as God, like, I hate to say that, but that's your loss. So if you're the one standing outside of the door in the rain saying, I'm not coming to the marriage, I'm not coming to the wedding, I'm not going to the marriage supper, I'm not going to the reception, screw you, I'm going to stand out in the parking lot and wait for Jesus. That's what gets me angry about religion, is because they fooled you into looking for an idol versus the real living God. And that's painful. It would be painful in the fact that if you or any person of piety out there were about to marry a woman, right? And this is like a separate, but imagine a pious person, and a man's about to marry a woman, and she keeps saying, if his name's, Tim, and she keeps calling him Timon, like he's gonna be like, who the hell's Timon? Well, I know your name's really Tim, but I like Timon. He's going to be like, but that's disrespectful to me. Why would you continue to call me Timon? Like, this doesn't feel like a good relationship. And then that person would, hopefully that person would begin questioning his relationship and say, you know what, I'm going to hold back. Like, this lady needs to learn my name first before I can even do anything. If we were going to go out to eat and it was my new wife and, she called to make reservations at Olive Garden, and she's like, yeah, put it under Timon. And I get there, and they're like, name? And I'm like, it's Tim. Sorry, have a seat. So do you see how the ignorance follows through in everything, in every sequence? And that's how it feels like being on the receiving end, is I get the Jesus name has been a placeholder. But that's what I mean about you need to grow up a little bit, right? You need to be able to put on eyes and ears and say, okay, like, some of this stuff has been fantasticized. Some of this stuff has been written and rewritten and then rewritten again by mankind trying to understand. That's what I mean. It's not like Double got his hands on the book and has done all these things. What it has been is it has been done through man's false heart. So what mankind a lot of times has thought they're doing for the goodness of their people, or through even what they thought would be beneficial to me, which is why I need me to interpret my own word. And then I teach my priest what I mean and who I am and what my character is and what my expectations of the planet, but also the people are, right? But that's what I mean. So I give the National Prayer Breakfast for Kentucky, 7 out of 10 stars. I'm hoping on our next prayer breakfast we'll have a 10 out of 10 stars. And you know what? If we can get my name right, then I will just be elated. Number one. But number two, I would like to take those states and those countries who are willing to step out through faith, say my real name, pledge your allegiance to righteousness, to goodness, to wanting to dwell in the earth in a restored state. Pledge those things with my real name. And then I will always, anyone who glorifies me and, brings my name to glory and not shame, I will bless you immensely. And I can't wait to begin to show that level of not only protection, but, just all around prosperity. And not prosperity necessarily through goods or through riches, but there's a lot of, well, put to you this way, every human civilization, right, on planet Earth is on top of ground, dry ground. And things in the micro all the way up to the macro can be adjusted and modified by me, your mighty one. And so I can make things really, really harsh, right? If we're walking down idolatry road and we're giving the finger to the true and living God, like, that's not going to help our relationship. That's not really going to stoke my embers to want to go into the abode and start etching out something great for this state who can't get my name right. Instead, I'm probably going to ignore you, right? And continue to point to getting my name right. Anyway, so I'm not going to go on a 20-minute name rant like I guess I did, but Wandale from the Giants, young man, you seem like you have a really nice heart. I'm not a big fan of the Giants, but I can tell you, any and all those who cherish compassion, charity, and the pursuit of righteousness, I welcome you to consider yourself my people. Know my name and ask of me, any and all things that are in goodness and in righteousness, and I'll see to that you have it. May not be immediately, but eventually. Just continue to walk in righteousness, do the right thing, and enjoy the profession in which you do. And, think of it also that, that is an opportunity for you that not a lot of folks get. So keep that in the back of your mind, whenever you're dealing with others throughout the world. Because what you don't want is you don't want to get clouded in your judgment or your thinking due to success or money, right, or fame. You want to remain humble and you want to remain charitable, but you also want to, remember your roots and where you come from. So, but today's teaching is actually going to be around, Hosea. And Hosea was actually the name Yehoshua had right up to the Egypt Exodus, and it was only when I, the Spirit, Yahweh, right, entered into his body, and then he was renamed Yehoshua, right, which is Yahweh is deliverance. And then you start off in Hosea, and this is right around 793 BC. Now, a lot of times when you're looking at scripture, there's a lot of these like shadow pictures, things that are happening in the micro or in the actual flesh that are reflective of the spiritual lessons, history, or future. So just like my physical sons, I have two physical sons. I have one from a previous marriage, that unfortunately, unfortunately, right? Unfortunately for my relationship with Jacob, right? My actual son, but Jacob as a people are my actual people. So you see how this works is, so essentially, I don't want to say this to sound weird or quirky, but it's almost like this is all my tale, right? This is all my book, my play, and I am at some points the real and living God acting out things in the flesh, in the physical, as it's happening. So just like, with Israel, when it comes to the idolatry, right, and all, and then pulling away, right, being the harlot, then the son essentially is taken captive and gone astray. Well, the same thing happened to Jacob, my people, my country, but also Jacob, my son. He just turned 13 the other day. And it's been an estranged relationship because, his mother, right, was an adulteress. And very much like Hosea in 793 BC, the first woman married was an adulteress. And then she bore a son, my son, that was Jacob. And then, essentially she bore a daughter with another man right after my divorce with her, and then my second marriage with my Asherah, right, who is my predetermined mate always in every epoch. And so anyway, now, right, that second marriage is the true marriage. So in the shadow picture, the first marriage was destroyed by idolatry, was destroyed by adulterous behavior, prowessness, all these things, harlotry. So it needed a second one. And this is the coming now, right? To try and make my marriage official between me and my people, right? Israel and the Gentiles. So I need one bride in that accord. But this time for it to be a lasting marriage. So that's why, being married to Asherah now, that is going to be an eternal lasting marriage, right? On earth and in heaven. So both ways. That's where we establish something that I call an eternal, meaning that I consider it good upstairs and good down here. It's a lasting marriage. It's going to work out indefinitely. Jacob is still estranged. He's still under the authority of the adulteress. I have not physically seen Jacob in over 5 years. And just the first time the other day on his birthday, which was the 8th, I got to text with him a little bit. So that's a huge movement in terms of personal prophecy, because basically something that you guys don't know is, just like you have the Bible as a lot of allegory between the ups and downs of the world, of me with my people, and how these events play out, and the micro, the macro, and all these things. Well, I basically have it in layers, right? So I go through these things as God, as Elohim, being born in this time, and I go through like relationships identical to what is being done in the big sphere. So, right, my first wife, she was an adulteress. She loved idols. She wore a bunch of, jewelry and fakeness, and then she led Jacob into that same stuff. Me and her divorced because she was cheating. Then I went through, this big disdain, and then boom, right, found my marriage with Asherah, my true eternal covenant, my wife, and then I came out with the son Cameron. Cameron got the first blessing over Jacob because Jacob stayed into the harlotry with his wife, but now Jacob is soon to be coming home, his real home, not his fake one. And then he'll be joined with his brother Cameron, who I have raised upright and pious and smart, and he himself is a mighty one. And so between Jacob, Cameron, and me, the three kings, right, we together, right, are very mighty and very powerful. And these are the desires of the Spirit of the true and living God, is to dwell within man, in me, so I can experience these things of the heart, but in the flesh, and to create heaven on earth, but not through the works of man, right? And not through the heart of man, through the heart of me, God, and through the supernatural works that only I can do. But I'm not going to work anything supernatural in those ways for a people group, or anyone, right? A church or a congregation that is offset to me. Where do I feel special when I pass any one of the churches on any number of roads, right? Jesus Christ of Nazareth Church, Jesus Church this, Jesus Church that, God's Church this, Baptist, Lutheran, Pentecostal, whatever. I walk in the door, they don't know who I am from Adam. They don't know that the true and living God just walked through their door. And even if I were to try to speak with a Christian, right, coming out of Walmart, and you see this gentleman with the Jesus hat on, maybe he looks upright, smells good, looks like a decent fellow. And, the minute I would bring up the name, not only would he give me a nasty look, but he looked just, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. Been following Jesus for over 50 years, young man. You ain't going to tell me nothing about nothing. Okay, well, what do you do with that? What do I do with that? The gentleman isn't necessarily a sinful person, right? No more than anyone else. But at the same time, I am his Lord. And it's like, well, sir, I don't know how to tell you, but I'm the real one that, that name represents, essentially, as represents me. But I'm back, so now I'm correcting things, and one of them is the name. That's what I mean. They're not going to listen to me, even though I'm God. This has like been a constant issue, because in people's minds, right, I'm supposed to be sitting up here, right, in this huge form. Like, that's what I mean, though. But that's like, I can interact with the world in spirit, or I can interact in the world with flesh. Like, it's two different things. I mean, that's what I mean. I just don't know, like, how else to put it to people, because whenever I go to put through judgments, I mean, I'm never going to be able to, in this lifetime, if I don't have any cooperation with people getting my real name out, getting mainstream my name, right? Getting these massive mega churches to get on board, because unfortunately, right, it's like a moth to a flame. And I've got millions of Christians that are following Jesus, and they're pouring everything they can and have into this idea and waiting on me to descend from the sky. Like, I'm not descending from the sky, right? I showed everybody the clouds. I did the pillar. I did the clouds. I did the angel clouds. I do the prophecies. Like, I do small miracles and wonders for those in personal contact with me. I do larger ones on the big scale. Like, I move my hand around all the time to prove to people that, okay, like, this is all substance. This is a 100% authentic God. Like, now you just really got to come to terms with it. Like, okay, so if you follow Jesus, then you are my people, but you're gonna have to understand me for who I really am, and then you got to make a decision, right? Can you accept who I am on earth as I am, or do you not like what you see, and then you want to then hold on to the ideal of the idol, right, of the never before seen Jesus, right? People kind of have this spiritual high, which is what I mean. And this is another root of idolatry, is they have this narrative that's built up of perfection, right? And understand that that's not real. That's not reality. Like, surely as I tell you, as I eat, breathe, and live, like, I have good days and bad days. Like, I have, good moments and not so good moments. But in form, right, there are challenges. And I don't need my churches to add to those challenges when I've got an even bigger part and a bigger thing to do coming up, which is going to be settling the score with the nations, and then giving all men, women, and children an opportunity upon the planet to live safe, to live righteous, to live upright lives, and then prosperity that not only is going to be skyrocketing, but it's going to be elevating. So, anyway, so another interesting factor, right, is Hosea is the groomsman. So, groomsmen stand at attention as the music swells and the bride begins her long walk down the aisle, arm in arm with her father. The smiling but nervous husband-to-be follows every step, his eyes brimming with love. Then happy tears are shed, vows stated, and families merged. A wedding is a joyous celebration of love. It is the holy mystery of two becoming one, of beginning life together, and of commitment. Marriage is ordained by Yahweh, illustrates his relationship with his people. Thus, there is perhaps no greater tragedy than the violation of those sacred vows. As the Spirit of God told Hosea to find a wife and revealed to him ahead of time that she would be unfaithful to him. Although she would bear many children, some of these offspring would be fathered by others. In obedience to God, Hosea married Gomer. His relationship with her adultery, and her children became living prophetic examples to Israel. The book of Hosea is a love story, real, tragic, and true. Transcending the tale of a young man and a wife, it tells of God's love for his people and the response of his bride. A covenant had been made, and God had been faithful. His love was steadfast and his commitment unbroken. But Israel, like Gomer, was adulterous and unfaithful, spurning God's love and turning instead to false gods. Then after warning Then after warning of judgment, God reaffirmed his love and offered reconciliation. His love and mercy were overflowing, but justice would be served. The book begins with God's marriage instructions to Hosea. After Hosea's marriage, children were born and each given a name signifying a divine message. Then, as predicted, well, and again, divine message, right? So my offspring in this time domain is Jacob, right? And then Cameron. So Jacob, we don't have to go into that explanation. Jacob, when he returns, will become Israel. Cameron signifies New Canaan, New Jerusalem. He'll be a brand new starting of a chapter. Then, as predicted, Gomer left Hosea to pursue her lust, but Hosea, whose name means salvation, that's a tie-in back to Exodus. So Hosea, son of Nun, became Yehoshua, son of Nun, meaning, and this is, I don't know, I try to refrain from certain passages because this might come as a shocker to some people, but I genuinely am very righteous, and I am actually not very combative. If I read something in your current Bible and I don't see it in mine upstairs, I try not to hit it over the head too much. But I can tell you from my Bible upstairs that I forgot where I was going. But anyway, it is what it is, right? It was son of Nun. Anyway, so then Hosea turns into Yehoshua, right? Which then is Yahweh is salvation. And found her, redeemed her, and brought her home again, fully reconciled. Images of God's love, judgment, grace, and mercy were woven into their relationship. Next, God outlined his case against the people of Israel. Their sins would ultimately cause their destruction and would rouse his anger, resulting in punishment. But even in the midst of Israel's immortality, God was merciful and offered hope, expressing his infinite love for his people, and the fact their repentance would bring about blessing. The book of Hosea dramatically portrays our God's constant and persistent love. As you read the book, watch the prophet submit himself willingly to his Lord's direction, grieve with him over the unfaithfulness of his wife and his people, hear the clear warning of judgment, then reaffirm your commitment to being God's person, faithful in your love and true to your vows. That was the excerpt of Hosea. So yeah, I mean, it's all in here, it really depends on how you can see it, because, there's nothing more irritating, right, than when people have such narrow minds and narrow views, and they can't get past, again, their own idolatry, right? It's like that's shiny, and that's what Jesus is to people, is that shiny, right? It's this false understanding of God. It's a false understanding of being saved, a false understanding of a true relationship with the living God. It's being sold as a children's story, while the real one is here to fulfill actual prophecy and put down stakes of the eternal kingdom. And it's like you hear every Sunday morning, right, thousands of churches starting up that organ, starting up the acoustics. They're talking about, oh, new heaven, new earth, oh, Jerusalem, oh, Jesus this, Jesus that. And it's like, if the devil didn't sell you guys so hard on the name and then the style of the coming, and then give you all types of false character routes to try to follow and chase down, that's what I mean. Because how does he win? How does Satan win? Satan wins by saying, if I can keep all these people looking for Jesus, then they're not going to care about Josh. who's Yahweh, they're going to keep looking for Jesus. And then he's like, good, keep looking for Jesus, because he ain't coming. And the Christians are like, well, that's fine. We'll wait this generation. We'll wait next generation. And it's like, then you are blind to see the times. If you can't see the signs and the times in which you're in, then you're ignorant, right? You're going to get swept up by fire. And then again, because you didn't do anything to help my kingdom, right? And that's another thing. People are saying, well, does that mean all these people that have died for 2,000 years, or not even 2,000, like 1,300 years, did they die inconsequential because they knew Jesus only? No, of course not, because I wasn't here. That's the difference. You guys were using a placeholder. And now I'm here in the physical. It's time to strengthen your real relationship with me, the mighty one of Israel, right? The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You guys need to strengthen that relationship with me, not create division between each other, and not try to point to a Bible here, there, and everywhere. Because you know what the biggest witness is of who I am? Me. Like, even without this book, if this book never existed and I hit the scene and I said, hey, I'm the guy that has supernatural powers. I'm that one every 2,000 years. I'm that guy that comes to restore balance and order into the world. I'm that guy that's going to destroy evil on behalf of the righteous. And then I'm going to take the righteous and pious people of the world, and I'm going to make sure they're protected, because that's who we want to move forward with. That's a theme, is what I'm trying to say. It's a theme, because for heaven to be experienced in all its fullness, earth must exist. But earth cannot exist with a malady of demonic incursion on it. So this is where, in the grand scheme of things, on every level, we're at an impasse. Because I, as God, cannot allow the earth to continue to be overran by demonic behavior. It is destabilizing all the purposes that are being done on earth that also intersect with the realms and in heaven. And so it's creating a massive unbalance. And decisions must be made. Very, very serious decisions. Because again, if we can't get the demonic population under control, like roaches in a house, no roach wants to see its other roach die. But I either have to exterminate the roaches to save the house, or the house is infested and it's uninhabitable. It can't be lived in. That's what I mean, is we are at this crossroad. But meanwhile, instead of having adult conversations about these types of things, I have grown-up babies who are so far over here. They're like, okay, Jesus coming down in a cloud, like holes in his hands, the long hair, the petting a lamb, that just instantly, right? It's like everyone's going to be just watching a George Lucas film, like sitting in their living room, seeing the sky open up and Jesus come down and the angels all around. And like, then we're not even living in reality, to be honest. Like, when has anything like that ever occurred all throughout the Bible? It's always been spiritual working through the physical. That's what it is. Applying the spiritual with the physical. The outcomes are very much that, right? But, are human beings going to be witnessing, millions of physical angels sitting in white dresses, right, on little seats in the air? Like, no. You're going to have to be in your spiritual body to witness those things. Can't do that in the flesh. And, until New Jerusalem is officially brought down and open, and the temple open for all the public to come, that's another thing, right? A part of what I need to fulfill is I need to have a temple so I can invite the nations to have talks, especially with confronting nations, right? If we get further down the line, and that's another thing, I don't want to just boom, there you go, there's a population of 2 million gone. Like, that does not serve my end goal very well. All it does is serve a dish of fear. And then I don't want, that's another thing, right? It's a bit of an ebb and flow for me, because I don't want my bride, either bride, right, to be afraid of their husband. I'm supposed to be your defender. I'm supposed to be your shelter, right? Your safeguard. I'm supposed to be the one you can trust, you can lean on, right? As the father of the house in the physical, I am that. As God in the supernatural, I am that. As to my angels in heaven, right, who do wear those white gowns and who do sit on thrones and luminaries and councils and all that. But unless you have a spirit, right, and unless heaven is adjoined to earth, you're not going to witness those things. So that's the thing, right? If you want to try to witness those things in this lifetime, then you need to get behind me and trust me. Trust who I say I am, and understand this, that if I am not who I say I am, but you believe in the person that I say I am, and if I'm not him, then where's the real one? That's my question, right? So if you think that this Jesus, right, is not me, right? Yeshua, Joshua, Yehoshua, Yahweh in the flesh, then where's the real one? That's my question. Then where is the real one? Heaven's not that far away. It's right there, right above the firmament. That's my question then. I know with 100% certainty when I go upstairs, I know the facts, I know the truth, I know the history, I know what's happened then, what happened in the middle, and what happens now. That's what I mean. Like, I can see this in a very clear way, so that's why when I approach people about the name, and it's like, you're still rocking Jesus. You don't know your own groom. You don't know the one in which you speak of. Because if you did, you would say, like, you would take it as like a good thing. That's what I mean. Like when you were in that relationship and you're like, you know, let's say, I'm not gonna go any more explanations. I mean, if people can't understand it by this, I don't know. Because at the same time, right? If you're watching this and you're like Jesus, 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 then that's what I mean. You are unlearned, which then goes. There is no faithfulness or kindness or knowledge of God in any of the lands. There is swearing, deception, murder, stealing, and adultery. They employ violence, so their bloodshed follows bloodshed. Therefore the land mourns, and everyone who lives in it languishes, along with the beasts of the field and the birds of the sky, and also the fish of the sea disappear. Yet let no one find fault, and let none offer reproof, for your people are like those who contend with the priest. So you will stumble by day, and the prophet also will stumble with you by night, and I will destroy your mother. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, because you have rejected knowledge. I also will reject you from being my priest. Since you have forgotten the laws of me, your God, I will also forget your children. The more they multiply, the more they sinned against me. I will change their glory into shame. They feed on the sin of my people and direct their desire towards iniquity. And it will be like people, like priests. So I will punish them for their ways and repay them for their deeds. They will eat but not have enough. They will play the harlot but not increase, because they have stopped giving heed to me the Lord. Harlotry, wine, and new wine take away the understanding. My people consult their wooden idol, and their diviner's wand informs them. For a spirit of harlotry has led them astray, and they have played the harlot, departing from me their God. They offer sacrifices on top of mountains and burn incense on the hills, under oaks, poplars, and terebinths. Because their shade is pleasant, therefore your daughters play the harlot, and your brides commit adultery. I will not punish your daughters when they play the harlot, or your brides when they commit adultery. For the men themselves go apart with harlots and offer sacrifices with temple prostitutes. So the people without understanding are ruined. Through you, Israel, play the harlot. Do not let Judah become guilty. Also do not go to Gilgal, or go up to Bethaven, and take the oath. As the Lord lives, since Israel is stubborn, since Israel is stubborn like a stubborn heifer, can I, the Lord, now pasture them like a lamb in a large field? No. Ephraim is joined to idols, leave them alone. Their liquor gone, they play the harlot continually. Their rulers dearly love shame. The wind wraps them in its wings, and they will be ashamed because of their sacrifices. You know. And again, it's over and over and over and over and over is what I mean. So recycling the same 25 verses that I think like most Christians go over. Like I really do, and I have to. And that's the thing. Like I don't try to be a but I can only make assumptions, because if I'm not connected spiritually to these thousands, hundreds of thousands of millions of Christians, I can't find you in the book of life. I can't find you in spirit. But yet, your cars are decorated with Jesus. You're wearing crucifixes on your neck. Like, you have the appearance of godliness, but there's zero connection to me, the one who actually saves you. And so then I go and, it's like, oh, this person rereads the New Testament. Like, you like stories. You need to be reading for fact, basic instructions before leaving Earth, the Bible. It's giving you all the character traits of who I am as God. When I come on the scene, what I'm like through my character traits. What is my purpose on Earth? What is my pattern on Earth? What is my plan going forward? And all these things you should know. Thus you will perish for lack of knowledge. And this again goes back to these schools, right? It goes back to these people, these places, these things, these doctors, or people that are Bible teachers. The thing is, if you were to look at it, any and all time when I was on the scene, right, they would confuse me with Baal. Like, that's what I mean. Like, it's just always been this thing, and I almost feel like I am somehow in this, like, millions of years long storyline, thousands of years in this book alone, of basically, like, trying to gather my people, let them acknowledge me as their God, and let me just help them, and let me help restore people, let me do awesome miracles and wonders and like do all these things. But I have to fight through thousands of years of idolatry. And it seems like when humanity was made corruptly, there was something put into your genome that almost makes you like us, dog and cat, like somehow by nature, like we're supposed to make a marriage work, but yet we are virtually like reflexive, repulsed by one another. I can't stand people that are superficial. Christians are mainly superficial. You only know the fake name, you know your 25 verses, the 6 same songs every Sunday, you eat ham on your feasts. Like, you know nothing about the true and living God, nor do you want anything to do with the true and living God. Like, all those many millions of people, right? They get one sniff of me, they are running up the idolatry tree because they think that's where they're safe. And it's like, in reality, you just climbed up a paper mache tree. There's no way it's going to hold your weight, because it's not real. To climb the real tree, it's going to make you exercise a muscle to get your big butts up there. Like, but that's what I mean. Superficial mankind don't want to hear that, and the devil wants to continue to play the song and dance for you. Like, no, don't look at him. Wait for Jesus. Keep looking up. Keep looking for that sky to part, because the devil's going to tell you, as long as you wait, then you have the hope of all things silly. As long as you wait, you have the hope of all things silly. Meanwhile, it's like the kid on Christmas, The kid thinks he's going to get a roller coaster for Christmas because Santa Claus said so. So Christmas morning, the kid's opening up a PlayStation 5. He's like, I don't give a shit. He's looking for the roller coaster. He opens up 2 games for the PlayStation 5. He throws them to the side. He gets a bike. He throws it to the side. He gets a skate. Throws it to the side. Because nothing's ever going to compare to a roller coaster. Well, his mom and dad, we make $60,000 a year combined. We can't afford a roller coaster. We don't even have room in the backyard for a roller coaster. So it's like, where did you get this idea? You've disregarded every good thing I've done for you because you're waiting on a roller coaster. I'm going to be furious as a parent. I'm going to say, who told you you're waiting on a roller coaster? Well, Santa. Well, what authority is Santa? Well, you said he comes and does presents and that he's magical and he could heal Cindy's mom of this. And it's like, wait a minute. Now as a father, I'm pretty ticked off because it's like, I just spent $1,000 on you for Christmas. You got a PlayStation, a bike, a skateboard, all these games, all this stuff. And it's not good enough because you want a roller coaster, all because an impious Santa man in red, a stranger, convinced you that I, your father, was going to get you a roller coaster. Like, this is the problem, right? This is my Christians and my Jews. Is the Christians, right? That's the Roman beast, right? Has sold you the roller coaster. And now when dad arrives at home telling you the things I can do, telling you the things I'm going to do, you're not happy with that. You're like, screw you, buddy. I am all about Jesus and all about that roller coaster. And again, I blame everyone who uses the false name because people that look up to like Eric Stakelbeck. You know, and I like Stakelbeck. I genuinely do. I love his reporting, but it's like a smack on my face, you know, when he talks about Jesus. Because I'm like, you're talking about someone who's supposed to be a, like, you know, unapologetic Bible. And it's like, but you're not. Like, you're not. And then people give me shit because they're like, well, it was written in Greek. Guys. This is what I mean. Like, you guys are so superficial. Like, even if it was written in Greek, it's all about the first people on earth, the set apart people on earth, why they were the Jewish people, the correct names of the players, because it gives you the secret name of God, my real name. And then that's the true name you're looking for in every epoch. So then what was Jesus' real name? Yahuwah. It was the same name he had since the first exodus of Egypt, right? Because Yahuwah of Nun, right? Son of Nun. That gives you that shadow picture that, okay, now the next time God comes, he's going to be the son of Nun, right? So he's going to be born by the virgin, right? And then again, his name is the same, right? Yahuwah. Yahweh is salvation. Yahweh is deliverance. The same name, because when the angel Gabriel said to Mary, name him Emmanuel, that means God with us. There was only one God, me, right, with anyone, ever. And I don't change my name, is my point. So, I don't give a rat's ass if it was written in Greek, if it was written in Klingon. That does not give anyone the right to misuse my name and call it Jesus. That's not my name. I don't accept that name. And if I hear that name by a pastor, a teacher, a preacher, a Bible salesman, or a newscast anchor, then that just screams to me that you're unlearned, you don't know me, and thus you're not worth my time. All right, I've got to go to the bathroom. I'm going to take 5, and then we're going to conclude. All right, and our shirt of the day is the one I said yesterday. So I'm a perfectionist and a procrastinator. Someday I'm going to be perfect. And I do. You know, I was talking to that in the car with my kids yesterday, and I tell you, it brought a tear to my eye, honestly, because, you know, we're a very open family, and we talk openly about these things. And so that's the thing, you know, I don't know how the world really perceives me or my family, but we are true and authentic. And, you know, my kids, you know, and my wife, you know, they said I'm perfect, and I told them I'm not. You know, as God I am. Like, but as a father, you know, I still, like, as a father of my own home, you know, to them I'm perfect, but not to me. You know, there are times that, you know, I have my shoulda, woulda, couldas. You know, I decided to, you know, take an approach this way, you know, with one of my kids, you know, for a particular reason, only to change it a little bit later because of different circumstances, you know. So I'm a constant work in progress to myself. But also, you know, my family, like and again, I say this from the nucleus, right? Because for me, all things occur. So being in the nucleus sometimes puts me at a blind spot, because I'll put forth things, from the family, from the center outward, but I can't perceive the resonance, right, that goes out and then comes back in, except for the acknowledgement of my name, the praise and worship that happens in congregations and community. But, there's B. He came to visit today. And that's the thing, right? So being as God, born in the flesh, right, to dwell among my people, A, but B, for my people to not fall in love with false characteristics of me, but to fall in love with the truth of me. And for sometimes that may look good, and sometimes it may look ugly, but I can tell you with 100% certainty it's the truth, and it's real. And once we can kind of get past this, I kind of feel like it's an awkward courting thing, there's so many cool things I can't wait to do, because at the same time, right, having the living God inside of me as me, there's no separation between us. If my spirit, if I, Yahweh, left my body and went home, then there's no me left. I would, essentially, this body would be dead, right? And then I would just be at home. And that's what I mean. So there is no separating me from me. One, but two, right? I'm not only a king in heaven, but when I'm down here with the people of earth, right, my children, I, want to have that kingship, but I don't want to. I want to be the support. I want to be the number one ally of the world. I want to be the one true God that any and all nations seek me, because they need that wise counsel. They want those supernatural blessings. They want prosperity. They want to get along with my countries, because I'm going to make America and I'm going to make Israel the apple of thy eye is true, and the righteousness in all the world. But before I can do that, I need people to know who I am. That's my number one mission right now. And as long as we're playing coy in mega churches, as long as we're doing things that are displeasing to me, to righteousness, things that are not glorifying my name or my family's name, I don't hear, again, my last name is Graham. It's a direct part of the Tetragrammaton. That is the true name of God, right? Yahweh, YAHUWAH, YAHWEH. And that is me, right? And in my flesh, my name translates right into Joshua in English, modern. And, again, we've gone through this, right? Yeshua, Yehoshua, before that, Hosea. Hosea is just a man, then the man made the marriage. Then the marriage made the marriage with God. God said, I am going to be only dwelling and inhabiting within my only begotten Son, whom I will send as the Messiah, as the Son of Man. And that Son of Man is going to be your king, because he's going to be operating directly through God. God's going to be operating directly through him, through me, to be your king. Therefore, my flesh is no longer corruptible. I'm no longer in any position of... I'm no longer subjected to the authority of man, only the authority that's been granted to me by God dwelling within my physical self, and has been since birth. So I've grown up with almost this two sides of the same coin, right? Where my God side is telling me one thing, that, okay, we need to do this because this is going to be beneficial for 25 years down the road. And the flesh side of me is like, are you kidding? Most people, right, they don't have that inconvenience. Most people, right, they're born, they have a family, they have activities, they have interests, they have pursuances, they have careers, they have money, they have goals, they have pursuance of all these cool things. And on the flesh side of me, it's like, gosh, it would be kind of nice to have just, been able to pursue self-interest, to been able to build a regular man's empire, to be a business owner, or to do all these things that I am naturally intelligent to do, any and all things I can do. But that's not who I am. That's not my purpose, you see. My purpose was from birth as God, incarnate. My thoughts are way different. And I'm aware of my godly thoughts versus my flesh thought. My flesh thought is, man, I really want that Baconzilla at Checkers. And my God self is saying, you know, we deemed pork unclean, and as it is, that stands. And it will be lifted in the future when I am at an acceptable place with my people, that I will perform an open blessing on that. And then again, right, so this is my battle between my God self and my flesh self, because my flesh self wants to please. I want to please people. I want to send tremendous blessings, right, to Living Messiah, or to Parable of the Vineyard, or to Remnant House, or to, you know, whatever. But then my God self grabs my hand, like literally, like my right hand is, you know, wanting to do all these things, and then my left, you know, my God hand grabs my other one and says, hey, you're not seeing the situation right. And then so I got to check myself, and I go, okay, fine, I will. So then I go into spirit, right? I say, forget you flesh. I'm going to remain in my God self. Then I'm looking through hearts, minds, congregations. I'm seeing the hard facts. Some look good on the surface, but they're rotten at the core. Some may actually look rough on the surface, but are pure at the core. Some are so out of balance and out of tune with me that I get sad and I almost tear up, because my flesh is telling myself, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're so far away from me. How am I ever going to bridge the gap with them? How am I ever going to convince them that what they've hoped for their whole life is here? But if only they could put down what their superficial ideas of me are for them to see the real me. If they could see the real me, what progress we would make. You know, and I've told you right now I have, can't believe I'm saying this, right, as my flesh, right? So my flesh says, I can't believe it, right? I've got Jacob, who just turned 13 years old. You know, he should be ready for his bar mitzvah. And, or is it mitzvah or bar mitzvah? Anyway, obviously he's a male. So the coming of age. And, you know, that's exciting for me as a father in the flesh, but also the father as above. You know, it's like I have the highs, but then I have the really highs. And so it's a beautiful disaster in some ways, because, you know, my flesh side exists here because that's what I mean. I want to please my people. You know, I roll through the neighborhoods, or not neighborhoods, but, you know, just through town doing stuff. And then I see all these churches, you know, King of Kings, Lord of Lords. And it's like that's me, but that's not my name. You know, or I talk to people, you know, church goers at different events, you know, mainly with my kids' school. And not even so much as that I'm talking in the flesh, but when I say a lot of times in the spirit, I can, you know, to put it in a carnal way, right? Imagine, like, if you know Casper, but imagine if you're watching the movie Casper and he's not just the ghost, right? Imagine when he turns into a boy at the end. Imagine he stayed like that, but he still had his ghost side, right? But nobody could see it. But as Casper the ghost could go around the room and he could, you know, jump into, I don't know what bit me on my freaking neck, but, you know, and then imagine Casper, you know, can kind of visit everybody in the room and see, like, oh, this is what the guy is thinking. This is what the guy feels. This is what's in his heart. This is what he's in his truth. This is what's in his knowledge. Like, all these things. And, you know, then the spirit, you know, I'm feeling it in the flesh. And so, like, I'll literally be, like, in the flesh. I'm like, I should be having a great time. Like, you know, I'm doing this activity, or, you know, like, let's say we're at a theme park, right? Busch Gardens, like, that was the one we had this past year for passes. So it was like, we went to Busch Gardens a lot. And it's like, my flesh, I should be having fun, right? I should be thrilled with the lights, the music. I should be entertained, right? But as God, I'm not entertained by almost anything, because I am Father, right? And I am incarnated into the flesh. So I am a lot of times opposed to myself, which can be really hard on me because I've got, a hybrid family, really, if you will. I've got two sons of God directly, right? They're born with the Spirit of God in them. Jacob and Cameron, truly. Like, they are just as much supernatural as I am. Which is also why I'm really excited that I'm talking to Jacob again, because, Jacob is going to start going through not only the change of life in the flesh, but he's going to be going through the change of spirit. So he's going to be getting these gifts, the God gifts. And the thing is, I don't know how the world again perceives these things, but like these are some of the most amazing times that the world has ever seen and is yet to see in some great ways, also in some very negative ways, which is why I am putting together the airtight, the crown of courts, right? I, as the King of Kings, Lord of Lords, right, the creator of gods and men in the flesh, right, have such an expansive and deep agenda because the earth, my plan, so long as mankind exists, there is, from this point forward, myself now will always have a seat on earth to rule as God. And right now that's only in a small little house in Florida with hardly a backyard, no garden, and no funds to do anything with to help my churches. But I can do things in a supernatural way, right? But a part of being righteous in the flesh is, I hate to say it, but a part of the relationship on earth is I can take care of the children of earth and do all things, all things through me for your benefit and on your behalf, because that's something you can't do, right? So mankind can't do supernatural things that I can. So therefore, that's my purpose to you, is to do the things you can't. But likewise, I am unable to create a personal business and succeed, because then that becomes a primary purpose, and I'm not allowed to leave my primary purpose as God. That's not allowed. So then I'm at like this crossroads, right? So almost like the marriage. And so kind of like having that marriage where, I don't like that one too much, but it's kind of like having that marriage that, it's kind of like having that marriage, right? Where the wife is like, hey, I can take care of our kids, I can cook dinner, I can clean the house, I can make sure, hubby's uniform is clean for the next day. But if the wife were to leave her role as a housewife, none of that would get done. And then in trade, that part of the house suffers for money to then be able to make more purchases, which would be beneficial on the purchasing side. But then we would be losing the clean house, the laundry, the kids' homework, the attendance, all the things that occur from the housewife's perspective. So the husband, right, is then taking care of the wife in the financial side, and the wife takes care of the husband in the home side. Thus is how I, God, operate with the children of earth. So I can't go out here and start a business and reap, $200, $300 million a year and then use that source income to then help my churches. Like, I am unable to do that. So thus, I am at limited choices for those things, because by design, for the marriage to work, is I need mankind to do those things in which I, as God, cannot take time out of my book of God duties to do. Right? So instead, I need that in return, so then I can continue on, and then I can do bigger and more things. And I don't want to make that into a money thing so much as resources would be my number one thing, because I never look at the cost of anything. I don't really even look at money, like, kind of ever. I mean, I've even worked jobs where I kind of worked there for free, really unknowing. because I don't really think of money. Like, that's, I guess, a flesh side of me is like, I'm kind of retarded, I guess, in that way. But it's not, because it's the God side of me where righteousness and purity trumps anything in regards to the material. So in a perfect world, people learn my name. I'm able to freely go throughout the communities anywhere in America or Israel, and I'm known as the one true God. I'm known as YAHWEH Elohim YAHUWAH, right? Who is the Christ, God incarnate, Joshua Christ, right? And that's one, but then having that also boosts the relationship on the God side of me, because then my heart starts to love you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what a beautiful congregation. Like, they're singing, they're worshiping, they're in gladness, they know the real me, and you know what? They're not disgusted by me. They're not rebuked by me, or, you know, it's like we have this beautiful thing blossoming, and then I get excited, right? Just as a husband, we get excited about coming home and the wife, you know, clean the house, the kids are all perfect and everything looks good, and the husband's like, you know what, honey, I'm so happy with you, I want to take you out to dinner, right? And the husband, you know, and it's just this beautiful thing, right? Continuing to grow. And there's no negative, right? Because it's a constant positive all the time. That's what I desire with my churches. And then it's like when you can keep that in your mind's eye of what could be, and then we come down to what it is, it's kind of nasty. Because it's like, no, I don't like you. I don't love you. I want Jesus. I don't like you. Like, you're not this. Or if you are, we're going to put you in a category that's not like, and then it's like disgusting, and it's reviling, and then it gets me angry, and then it's like in the flesh I feel shamed, and I'm like, why do I feel like I am just the lowest form of life on earth to the very people in which I'm here to help? I'm here to, you know, save your souls. You know, if you want that eternal life, like, I'm here to give it. If you want paradise on earth, I'm here to do that. We got to take care of the demon problem and learn my name. Like, that's the two biggest things we got to do right now. And, you know, I've got so many secular churches that even if they're for me, they're staying within the same circle. So we're not really doing anything. We're not spreading the message anywhere. Like, I have, by the thousands, still churches that are oblivious. I have people walking around everywhere I go with the Jesus hats on, right? In the town I live in, I literally have Jesus is the answer, Jesus is the answer. And I'm like, you guys are propagating the fake message alongside of the real me, trying to propagate the real message. And so it's like, I'm not wanting to be mean, I'm not trying to be harsh, and I'm not wanting to even be looked at like a persecution of Christians, because you guys are my people. But my people right now are dumb, unlearned, and a lack of knowledge. And I hate to say this, but a lot of it comes down to your personal pastor, your teacher, or your preacher's pride. Remember, pride was the fall of Lucifer, right? Pride was what drove Ea to create artificial man, to create a humanoid from a non-soul being, right? To create an intelligence from a non-intelligent source. And that's all because of pride. You know, because Ea wanted a people to bow down to him. He wanted to play God, and he could not play God in the realms because I'm God. And thus he could only do it down here on earth. And so as long as the devil is able to, you know, offspring his children who are easily fooled, they're easily fooled into fake religion, and then they are the ones that, because of religion, because of this false religious authority that is not me, they are working wicked and evil things, and they don't even know it, because they think they're doing it in the name of the true God, and it's false. And that's what I mean. You know, I'm not Jesus. That's not my name. That is Roman. You know what I mean? In Rome, like, you know, protected by Mother Mary, God bless Jesus, and then everybody, you know, like the work done on the cross, like all these things. Like, like, I really hate to break the news to you, but, you know, we could have definitely went without the crucifixion chapter. That's truth. Because the truth be told, like, as God, there's nothing that I can't do. And the purpose of self-sacrificing to only then come back and then say, told you so, and then to prove to the Jews that, hey, like, your Messiah is eternal. But no matter what and who it is, right, the flesh is the flesh. And until new earth comes down and I do a few of those ippity-boppity boos, like, that's going to remain. But if the people of earth stay opposed to me, right, they want to wait for Jesus, they want to carry on the same narrative, then most, if not everybody, will die, right, through wars, destruction of nations, or just old age. Meanwhile, I'm going to be building up my family. I'm going to be building up one person at a time, right, one church at a time, and hope that once I get them at least set up, that if I step away for a few months because I'm trying to build my next one, that they don't collapse. And that's what's happening right now, is I feel like I'm building sandcastles, because the character of those people that are in churches, right, they're asking such static questions. They're interested only in static things. Like, when Yeshua comes and he comes down from the sky, is it going to be in the northern sky or the eastern sky? Like, what in the hell are we talking about? All right, I'm going to take 5. Okay, this will be our last part. But, you know, and I would like to kind of put this out there, you know, because it takes the first step, you know, in this, right, is to step out with faith, right? So going back to Galilee, for example, you know, telling people virtually any parable or working any miracle, and then still having the disbelief, or still having those holding on to. That's the thing, right? They wanted to get rid of the law, the ideals, and I don't mean the 613 laws. I mean the basic 10 commandment laws, observing the Sabbath, and then when I am actually integrated and I know that these feasts are for me, right? Not the myth version of me, not the false name of me, not the prayers in the false name, like the actual me, where I am showed honor, I am showed respect, I am showed, you know, worthy, because I am worthy. Worthy is the Lord, you know, I am. You know, I am worthy of kingship, because I already have one upstairs. But, you know, the biggest thing, right, is, again, pride. That's what we were leaving on, is imagine, and there's many of you, you know, teachers or pastors, preachers, rabbis, reverends, bishops, you know, popes even. You know, imagine that you've invested 50 plus years or 20 years, 30 years, 60 years, whatever, you know, into the Jesus narrative. You know, that's the name that, you know, you consider above every name. Like, these are all this culturally ingrained things, only for now in the end of days, when it really counts, no pastor, because you guys have prepared for the end of days, like, you know, the SEAL Team 6. Unfortunately, you've prepared in all the wrong ways, and now are reluctant to make any changes towards the ways I want you to, because of pride. And as I said, everyone will have to accept their shame, and that is the point. That is the all-consuming point, is everyone, pastors especially, teachers especially, rabbis, reverends, bishops, popes, to acknowledge the one true God, to acknowledge the mighty one, is to put aside your pride and to say, hey, we didn't take our faith serious enough to know the true name. We didn't take our faith serious enough to listen to the only one, you know, says he's going to do something and does it. Says he's going to do something and does it, right? 100% truthful in all things I'm doing, but yet I am 100% ignored, disregarded, disrespected, dishonored, blasphemed, told I'm this, told I'm that. Like, that's what I mean, you know, and people to this day, you know, that's what gets me angry, and I'm not going to get angry right now, but that's what really does, is I say I'm God, you'll call me Moses. I say I'm God, you'll call me a prophet. I say I'm God, you'll call me a man. I say I'm God, you'll call me an angel. I say I'm God, you'll say I'm everything other than what I say. And like, I'm just telling you, you are not going to have the right or the ability to miscategorize me in the new earth state. So if that's your position, then look yourself in the mirror and say you're not going to be in new earth. And then look at yourself and also say that you get the consultation prize for your afterlife. You're not going to get anything, of an actionable. Like, you're going to get a 30-second comfort clip, and then your soul's going to be nested in somewhere else, and then there you go. You'll be dispensed at a further time down the road, and in which you will then be raised in an environment where my name is commonplace. My true name is a household item, right? Where the stories of the true and living God are what's being told at kitchen tables and on living room Bible studies, where the generation to come, will be begging and asking, is the Lord going to come to our state? Is he going to come to our country? Where people are going to be, setting up feasts years in advance, just waiting for me to come for a few days for a feast to celebrate in this country or in this area or this territory. Like, if you could see past the curve and you could see into the future as I can, then you would see these things. And the thing is, those that could say, you know what, I love God more than my pride. And then that's when a teacher would stand up. And in my eyes, whether you're a pastor of one or you're a teacher of 1,000 or you're a bishop of 1,000,000, to be able to stand up confidently, truthfully, and say, you know what, I'm willing to admit my pride got in the way of spreading my Lord's true message, which was his real name. His purpose here is getting evil cleaned up, getting it out, right? Because I don't want my righteous people to have to contend with evil, right? Think of the Bebas family. That's a good example. This poor lady I spoke about yesterday, she was about to be walked down the aisle by her father. They just picked out a dress. I'm not going to tear up, but it's terribly sad. And you have like real living, breathing demons walking this planet, and people like still have this like twisted mindset. And then it's like, you guys in America are protesting the expulsion of a pro-Palestinian protester, right? Like, you guys are politically trying to propagate the devil. And everybody who is assimilating with that, you're putting yourself on my enemy list. You're literally putting yourself on my adversary list. And what am I as God supposed to do with that? When I have most people willingly, ignorantly, but willingly siding with the devil, siding with blasphemy, siding with all things that I am at war with, but I'm supposed to be your Lord. That's what I mean. The devil is the deceiver. He has deceived you to put you at a juxtaposed position to me. I am your Lord. I am your God. I am Yahweh, right? It's not a hard thing, and I would like to get to the fun stuff of this. But because I think I don't want a reputation that, God came, he was angry, he toppled nations, and now I sit upon a throne that, is covered in blood. I don't want that. I would much rather like the nations to just, give a polite bow, say, we agree. 10 Commandments are a staple in civilization. We agree you're the God of creation. We've seen your power. We've seen your glory. We've seen your might. Now we're going to know your name. Now, Lord, just tell us, when you're coming, and then we'll be prepared. We'll have a place, as I've had said before, and it has been written, prepare a place for me, the Lord, so I may come and dwell among you. And truth be told, right? And then remember, it's the God mind versus the flesh mind. Not versus, because we are one. But it's like, in so many ways, I'm a very humble person, and I don't want much. But I want much for all my people, right? So if I really had it my way, and if I had the world just saying, Yahweh, here is your blank piece of paper, just tell us what you want, no frills, no BS, I would say I would like something like the Biltmore, right? It's got plenty of room. And again, that's what I mean, right? The Biltmore was supposedly built for me on my behalf, right? But it's not really. Like, it's all talk and no walk. Because then when I ask for all these things that are in my name, you're like, no, those are for Jesus. Okay, well, I am Jesus. So what's your point then? Like, I don't like the name because, again, that was never my name. And if I say I'm Jesus, then I'm lying. I don't lie. So how are we going to reconcile that? Where I'm telling liars the truth, the liars reject truth and call me the lie because they've been born into a deceiving lie. Do you see how the devil has operated? When the devil says, to Eve, God said if you eat it, you'll die. And I'm telling you, you won't die. Who was right? I was right. They would surely die, right? And then they were cast out of the garden. Then they were, that separation of heaven and earth, that's when that happened. Because of flagrant disregarding the word of Elohim, of me, of God, of Yahweh, YAHUWAH, YAHWEH. And this narrative has continually progressed. And then every so once in a while, right, you have Rome saying, I'm going to take the controls of religion and I'm going to make man do what I want. Or the Persians, I'm gonna twist the word of God to help my narrative, right? Or the Ottomans, or the Phoenicians, or whoever, right? It's always the same stuff. And I am the true God, and I'm saying there is one way, one truth, and one all-consuming light. And I am those three things. I will teach you the right ways of righteousness and how to abate the disaster of the nations if you listen to my voice. My sheep know my voice. You want to be in my pasture. So for as many that are trying to stay out of my pasture, as many that are trying to hold on to the name Jesus, they're holding on to the fake Roman narrative that, again, it walks side by side with me. There's truth and then there's the lying side, right? So the lying side is like oil and water. It doesn't want you to find the truth, because if you find the truth, basically I'm breaking you out of the matrix, and then once I get you out of that matrix, I'm going to say, now stand behind me and watch. Watch while I break every one of them, and then I eliminate evil in the world. And once that smoke clears and tribulation ends and there's evil gone, it's done. Nations have gotten in line with the commandments and righteousness, and now all those nations want, and all the people in those nations, they want only one thing, the only commodity that matters, the true and living God, me, Yahweh, Yahuwah. That's what is coming. So for all those that are still in like the preschool, that's what I mean, right? So your futures, you're the ones that are setting your own selves up for failure, because you think that there is an alternate path to reconcile your heart or your prideful teaching or something that's going to inevitably prove you right versus me, and that's not happening. Has it happened thus far when I gave you the sign of Jonah? No. Has anything I said not came to fruition? Has anything I've done not been for the glory of the kingdom of heaven and for the sanctity of my person, my godship, my son's godship, my wife's goddessship? Like, I am building out my kingdom on earth, starting with my own family. That's written, that's prophecy, and in a very real way. So, I just think that the world could do a better job. And, it's a lot of weight on my true churches. There are few, and I would like to see that outreach, big, smaller, and different. And I've mentioned this, when there are, like your Joyce Renners and your, Jonathan Kahns and, even your Eric Stackelbecks, these guys are using the name Jesus, and you guys have access to thousands of people. So are you going to continue to use the fake name to hold on to your pride and circumvent shame temporarily, or are you going to stand up and say confidently, this is the name of God, this is who he is, he's here, this is what he's doing, folks, let's hold on to our hats and our seats, and let's let the true and living God do what he does, and let's be good supporters of him. That's what I want. Let's be good supporters of God and his good work he's going to do now. And of course, let's honor the work that he's done in the past. Let's honor the work he did through Yeshua. Let's honor the work he did through Yehoshua. Let's honor the works he did through Moses. Let's honor the work he does through prophets and stuff like that. But when it comes to the true and living God, let's just acknowledge for who he is. And again, I don't understand why that's a hard concept for mankind to get, but it's the truth. And I mean, again, big or small, right? The Olive Garden, for example, in the flesh, I mean, yeah, I was disappointed because I'm like, I really liked my chicken marsala the way it was, but in my flesh, I'm like, I'm kind of used to disappointment. It's fine. The God side of me, not tolerable. Like, that was a big deal for me. And again, my nature is different than mankind, which is why I don't refer to myself as man, because I can freely come and go to and from heaven, to and from my throne, to and from my abode, any time I wish, right? And I've successfully, seeded my family's souls in trade of spirits. So everyone in my family, or at least the boys and the wife, right, they have had their soul swapped for a spirit. So, like, I'm working from the nucleus out. But all right, well, we're getting a little long for a Tuesday message, so I will end it there. I hope, I hope everyone can pull together. I really hope we start seeing the, I really hope we start seeing the corner being turned on a lot of these things, and that's where the work for the true church really comes in. Because if you consider yourself a true church, and we're not actively engaging people in social media, telling them about me and my true name, that's another thing. Like, I have yet to hear, because that's what I mean. Everyone is taking this, like, playing coy. Like, we're going to say it a little bit, but not so much. Like, if you're doing that, if you're operating with that mechanics in your mind and your heart, you're still married to the devil. Like, that takes true acknowledgement and self-reflection and self-awareness to say, okay, I want to be as close to God as possible. I want to know his true name. I want to know his kids' names. I want to know who the future kings are of America, of Israel. Like, and don't get me wrong, America will have a president always. That's the way. So will Israel always have a prime minister. I'm not going to be prime minister, and I'm not going to be a president. I am the king, right? But what things that fall on my side of the house, right? Like Trump and tariffs. That's not my deal. That's Trump. But when it comes to the public security of the people of America and Israel, that's my concern. When it comes to the infiltration of evil into the schools, that's my concern. When it comes to the healthiness of the American and Israeli people, right, that's my concern. So things that involve my people are my business. Now, again, on the political side, right, Mr. Trump is going to do what Mr. Trump wants to do. That is his job. And just because his job and my job intersect at a lot of places, it doesn't mean that, I would ever order, President Trump to, like, be 100% submissive to me. That's not what I desire. That's not the plan, right? Leave politics to politics, but leave the kingdom and the crown to me. That's my job. That's my purpose. That's my pattern and plan. And that also ensures supernaturally that things continue on a good scale, because this is for the future as much as now. Is when that is established, that is the people's security. That is the people's security to ensure that no government could ever take them down a dark road deceptively again. That ensures that no religion could ever take over and claim any status above the absolute truth and the absolute purpose that is me. That's the point. So therefore, right, that Roman beast system, I'm gonna gut it, because it's supposedly for me and it's not for me. If it was for me, then I should have bags. How about Santa Claus? I should have Santa Claus level bags of freaking mail. I should have, like, I'm saying, if I was cashing all those checks that so many mouths write for Jesus, all such things that belong to me, I'd be cashing a lot of checks, and I have yet to take, and I want you to know that, swear I, Yahweh, I have yet to receive 1 penny, 1 dime, $1, 1 anything. I have taken not so much as a free cup of coffee from anyone on this planet. That should speak volumes. That should speak volumes. So, I'm peeling. I told you I got some sun the weekend. But anyway, alright, well, we're going to leave it there then, guys. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and we will catch up with you tomorrow.